Rural CAP in collaboration with the UAF Tribes Extension, and we're hosting this webinar series about growing food in rural communities in Alaska. So in welcoming all of us into this virtual space, I first wanted to acknowledge where we are. So we here at Rural CAP are on lands of Dena'ina people, and wherever each of us is, if you would like to put your location in the chat, it would be cool to see where people are calling in from. We are all on unceded territories of Indigenous peoples of Alaska. So we just acknowledge the place-based knowledge and land stewardship since time immemorial, and how that benefits all of us and really lays the foundation for sustainable food systems and just life moving forward. So yeah, I wanted to just pass it over to our presenters, our panelists today, to introduce themselves. We're going to be talking about youth involvement in gardens and particularly employment and some of the benefits of that, and also opportunities for funding it. And then it can just be a conversation since we don't have too many people. I don't think it'll be overwhelming at all. If you want to just unmute, if you have a question, we can be pretty informal about this meeting. So I will first pass it off to Courtney. If you would like to introduce yourself, please.
Sure. My name is Courtney Weiss. I work for the Yukon Delta Fisheries Development Association. I'm currently in Juneau on Tlingit land, and I reside in Anchorage on the Dena'ina land and work in Emmonak on land of the Yupik people. I'm the project manager and grant manager here for the project.
Thanks, Courtney. Yeah, and actually, when you guys introduce yourself, could you just give a little overview of the project as what you work on that relates to what we're talking about today?
So we have a youth employment project that we run in all 6 of the villages we represent, as well as a youth agriculture project that is currently in 2 villages and will expand to the 3rd this summer. We have greenhouses, and we are working on growing food to sell locally to increase food stability in our communities.
Thank you. Would Anangookwe, would you like to introduce yourself next, please?
Yeah, also feel free to interrupt me if I suddenly pause or there's some breakup. But hi, everybody. My name's Anangookwe Wolf. I am one of the Seeds Outside coordinators for Alaska Seeds of Change. We are a program of Alaska Behavioral Health, and we work off of Arctic Boulevard in an 8,000 square foot hydroponic greenhouse where we provide vocational training for transition age youth. And in the Seeds Outside program, it only really runs during the summertime. So we have this place called Stickleback Farm that we are currently setting up in East Downtown Anchorage, where apprentices who are usually employed through CITC, 9-star, or getting school credit, they just come out and they get some farm work done. And it's a really, really beautiful program.
Yeah, it is. Cool. Thank you. Stephen, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
I'm Stephen Holley Echelon, Tkonkaig Echelon, Debona Echelon, China Echelon Chidal, and Dena'ina Echelon. So my name is Stephen Holley, and my Dena'ina name is Tkonkaiga, means a wolf shadow, but more like a shadow of the self, like a spirit. And I am here in Anchorage on my people's traditional homeland. I'm originally from Townick, across the inlet. So I'm a tribal member of Townick and an honorary tribal member of Eklutna. I run a Dena dance group here in town. The kids, it's for everybody, but it's been taken over by the youth for the past 11 years. So it's a real youth focused group, and we have a farm that I'm building for them. I also sit on the Eklutna Tribal Conservation District board, and we are building the kids. Well, it's for everybody, but my plan is, or what our plan is, to get the kids doing the work for it, so that they're able to then feed our people. It's something that's very important for us. And so, I mean, it's a project focused on many levels for youth in agriculture. But the main focus for us is for our youth to be able to provide for themselves and for our people, so that then they can be Denaina with the proper tools. I mean, so when we look at tradition, we look at what it means to feed our people. And as more things change, more things become available. Farming and other avenues of agriculture have presented themselves as great ways for us to be able to make sure that our kids know how to be Denaina from here on.
Well, thanks for introducing yourself and for joining. So since y'all already gave a little overview of what you're doing, I would just like to ask you why you think it's important to involve youth in community food activities, such as a garden, and also, if you have any kind of stories of challenges and successes, that is always cool to hear too.
I kind of brushed up on that a little bit in my introduction, so I guess I'm talking about how important it is for our youth to be able to feed each other in our community. So if I'll just brush up on that strong focus, because within our group, we have the youngest is 21 months and the oldest is 27. And of the youth group, of the youth section, of the largest section of our group, are like 95% of our people, they're youth, or like 90%. And so it's really important for them to be able to understand that, in order for them to operate, they have to trust communication. They got to be able to communicate with others. So we only have really three rules. Respect those that are older than you, that when they're instructing you. I want to say elders, but I mean, I really entrust the kids to like their older siblings, or to some of the older kids a lot. So I mean, they have to learn to be able to trust those that are older than them and what they're saying. Then they also have to help out with the younger ones, because there's always younger ones. And so it kind of puts a little bit of a responsibility in them that they're not usually always adjusted to. But then the third one is to always learn something, because I mean, there's always something new happening. And agriculture kind of gives us the perfect avenue for teaching those things. I mean, because if we bring in the younger group with us, then you always have to watch them. I mean, one, you gotta make sure that they don't hurt themselves, but two, they're also interacting with very sensitive beings. The plants can easily break. So I mean, being able to give them enough attention so that they're not breaking stuff, you gotta entrust the other younger ones that are a little bit older than them to really watch out and help out with that. So it really starts to give them an understanding of being able to see what they were doing not too long ago and the progression that they made in learning stuff. I mean, just that little bit of perspective kind of, I can hear it when they start talking about stuff. They start noticing it. I mean, so I mean, on a social level, it's very important. Um, and another thing is that it's not going to be exclusive to just when they're working with their own little ones. When they get older, they're going to see people do the same type of activities as a kid would, and they're going to be more recognizing of that and understanding how to interact with that. Since they're here in the work sense, you know, as youth, they get to understand how to communicate that better with those that are older and younger than them. That's something that I've noticed a lot with my group of kids is that, you know, they are all very well spoken. People talk about that often. And I think that one, I mean, they got some strict aunties. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, you know. But two, you know, we in our group expect them to be able to operate underneath that sort of mandate of show respect, listen to what people are saying, you know, and make sure you're learning. It's real simple. Um, Else people care. So I mean, it's the foundation of actually making things happen is, you know, some of those elements. So that's why I think it's important to have the kids with us while we do agriculture.
I'm sorry.
I guess, okay.
I was wondering if the question could be repeated.
Yeah, I was just wondering like why you think it's important for youth to be involved in community food activities such as a garden, or you know, just talk about a garden because that's what we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. I can briefly go. So kind of like our mission at Alaska Seeds of Change is that we are kind of a clinical space. So we have vocational training and clinical offices in our building. And we are trying to approach vocational training from like a care farm angle. So part of the mission is, you know, like there's these different terms like that we use as like upregulation, downregulation, and a lot of working with plants is like a very regulating activity because it is hands-on, and depending on, you know, which activity you're doing, either, you know, harvesting our lettuce or seeding, it gives the youth the chance to like regulate themselves and also, you know, just get experience with growing the vegetables. And I know for like a lot of our youth during the summertime, it was really refreshing for them to get outdoors for the Seeds Outside program, because the hydroponic space is very humid and, you know, you can get a little antsy in there. So that was just like some things that we do. And, you know, a lot of our youth really grow during this program. Yeah, they just get inspired to how to like with learning vegetables and sorry, I'm like kind of stumbling over my words. Learning how to grow vegetables and, you know, feeding their family, because also when we have an excess that we cannot sell, our youth have the option to take the vegetables home with them.
Okay, I'll go now, I guess. So we're in a remote area, so fresh vegetables are very hard to come by because everything has to get cargoed out to Emmonak or similar areas. So providing fresh, nutritious vegetables for the community is something that's going to be hopefully very important in the next couple of years in our area. And we already had a youth employment program. So we know the importance of engaging youth in the summertime when they're off, showing them how to earn income, giving them self-esteem, showing them how to socially interact with each other in a more professional environment, as well as learning problem solving skills in the garden. A lot of these kids haven't seen where vegetables come from, so it's pretty cool to see the expression when like a squash will start fruiting and they're like, what is this? I've never seen this before, and how do I eat a squash? And just showing them different vegetables that could be, you know, nutritious, and just giving them a new perspective on food.
Yeah. Well, yeah, those are all really great answers, like food stability, mental health, socialization, like cultural values. Seems like there's a lot. And then you all kind of like hinted at it a little bit, but I was wondering if you could all just like go over the organizational structure of how your youth program is run. Like, how is it funded? How did it come about? Who is in charge? Like just how it kind of runs on a day-to-day basis.
I can give like a little bit of history on Alaska Seeds of Change and how it became. I know it was started up in like December 2016, and it was originally not part of Alaska Behavioral Health. So at the time, we used to actually hire on youth staff and, you know, like pay them ourselves. But since then, we've evolved to like, once again, just being like, we're now a program of Alaska Behavioral Health. And so now clinical's involved, and a lot of our funding is either obtained through grants and donors. But the majority of our youth coming in now are actually paid through our partner programs. So CITC is a major partner of Alaska Seeds of Change. There's 9 Star, there's McLaughlin, Youth Center, places like that you pay. And then apprentices can also get school credit if they're like going through ASD. So that's kind of how we function with funding and also employing our youth.
Cool. So the youth are paid and then they also can get school credit?
Yeah, so they can get paid or they can get school credit. So
Okay.
yeah, with CITC and 9 Star, they pay the apprentices, and we are just the host site. But I know for like ASD, if they're going through ASD or what is a place called King Tech, that's all school credit.
And then there's someone hired or there's multiple people who are like older who are like kind of managing the youth program.
Yeah, so I'm like one of 5 leads at Alaska Seeds of Change. So we supervise the apprentices and then also our youth staff. So thank you for bringing this up. I actually forgot to mention it. After apprentices complete the program, if we are hiring, even if we're not hiring, we tell them that there's an option if they want to, you know, work for us part-time or full-time, they can fill out a job application. So when we're going through the hiring process, we'll reach out to them. So a good, like the majority of our youth staff, there are 2 levels. There's greenhouse growers and skill devs. They're usually hired on if they've, you know, interviewed well and have shown like some leadership skills as apprentices. And yeah, and then they're, you know, paid through AKBH.
I have a question for you, Anangookwe. So I'm super interested in this idea of like a garden program being like a direct mental health program. Like, you know, are there other clinicians they meet with, or like, how does the garden like get carried through to that for mental health wellness?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So yes, we do have 3 clinical staff members that work upstairs. And throughout the week, they host a number of groups. So this could be breath work. There's also, we have a peer support specialist that apprentices can sign up to, you know, do baking with her and or cooking. So peer support specialists like offer like a lot of life skills and, you know, lend a like an arc informed but sympathetic ear to the apprentices. So yes, we have groups, and then they can also sign up for just like one-on-one individual therapy or clinical work. So that's some ways that they're incorporated. And of course, you know, this is during the workday, and our apprentices get paid to, you know, attend these sessions as long as they give us, you know, notice that they're going to be going to group. So yeah, that's some ways that it's incorporated. And then of course, all of the lead staff are ARC informed and ARC trained. So if a clinical is not available and an apprentice is like experiencing a crisis, we can offer them some like regulating tools until, you know, some other like a more professional person can like step in. So we're trying to create like a safe space where mental health is discussed and destigmatized.
Well, that's so amazing and so important, especially now. Yeah. Courtney, would you want to just tell us about how the youth program, or I think you said there was already a existing youth employment program, but maybe like how that's funded and how it was like brought into the garden and how it's managed? Thank you.
Yeah, so we have a grant through the state of Alaska, Department of Labor, the WIOA Youth Grant, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. We've had that funding for several years, and that supports the work experience that the youth get while working for any of our villages. We have that in all 6. And last year we got some money from the Alaska Mental Health Trust for support of that program as well. For the agriculture specific, we got a lot of funding from the Rasmussen Foundation to start it. And this year we have a 3-year grant through the Association for Native Americans, the Alaska SED Social and Economic Development Strategies for Alaska grant to expand our agriculture project to 3 more villages over the next 3 summers. And basically, two things happened at the exact same time. We had a salmon run crash on the Yukon River, and one of our main sites of employment was the fishery in Emmonak for youth processing there. And since that ended, a lot of employment opportunity went away in Emmonak. So we coincidentally got funding the same summer for starting this program. So it was good timing to start a food security project in the area as well.
Who supervises in each village? How's that structured?
Yeah, so I'm the overall program coordinator for both the youth and agriculture program. And then I have a agriculture manager and a youth program manager. And then underneath the youth program manager, we have coordinators in each village. And those coordinators are responsible for making sure that the youth are at their work sites and properly composing themselves and attending work and making sure they get all their timesheets in and all of that, and forms. And we advertise through Facebook and posters in the villages, and working a lot more closely with the schools now. So that's a good opportunity to increase involvement in the community as well.
So does your program have not just youth, but also adults?
We have to have 1 supervisor per every 6 kids working for the state grant. So yeah, we hire supervisors, local supervisors as well.
That all sounds so cool, Courtney. Uh, and to give you a little background on why that sounds so cool to me, because well, I can answer this question too, is because our organizational structure is people just show up every week. I
Where the
lead
fuck
it.
did I put that?
Yeah, it's not bad. But we've been going on 11 years, and that's just kind of how it's always worked out. We do our communications through Facebook Messenger, or I mean, sometimes we'll even call each other or text each other. But I mean, me and the kids, we just kind of occupy different areas. But now we have a dance room. We have in the past. It's just we used to rent a spot out of Northway Mall, and it was a nice spot. We used to rent from a Polynesian group called Pacific Bloom. But it was in the Northway Mall. So I mean, here in Anchorage, it's kind of there was a lot of stuff happening around the kids that I did not want them around. I used to have to walk with them all, at the end to their vehicles. There was shootouts, and there's gang members and other whatnot going on there. So we organized just to be able to stay together in safer areas, community rooms on buildings, parks, and we are now in a office building on 16th and C Street, owned by my tribe, and we have a room there that they currently are donating. Working on getting rent, but we, like I said, gather weekly, and other groups are starting to use our room also. And since we have everybody that's there, the goal has always been to keep the kids, yes, learning their culture and socializing together and learning healthy activities. And one of the things about agriculture, it gives us chance, like I was saying, to do all that, from multiple generations. But it also gives the kids a safe environment, which is one of the, if not the biggest focus that we have. And so when you're talking about you can actually hire on folks, one supervisor per 6 kids, I mean, that's awesome, because currently, well, I've always led, so I make the majority of the decisions. Not to say that I don't get told what to do a lot, so I mean, they're decisions. And I was just going over that with some of the new ladies in our group, because they were asking me about, what, how we're, same questions, how we're organized, what we're doing. And I was, making plans, and they said, well, that sounds great. We could start making vests right after graduation. And I was like, oh yeah, right. There's that too I gotta think about, because I don't really think about stuff like that. I think about, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, or springtime or summertime or fall time or winter time. I mean, I don't always think about some stuff that youth are currently going through, within this structure. So I mean, within our organization, yes, I do lead, but I'm also influenced quite a bit, if I'm not led by quite a bit, by the members in our group. And the people that actually make the decisions are the adults. So I mean, it's all of us together. We discuss what our interests are. So there's a lot of communication, a lot through Facebook. I mean, if you there in there, we have different updates on people's lives, as well as updates on events that we're doing together. So we keep it mostly on free services, like Facebook Messenger. because we do the funding ourselves, or we have for most of the time. We recently got recently finished last year a Siri grant, and that was it was 20 grand for a year to try to figure out some things. I mean, we've just been in operations for over a decade. We've just never really accumulated all our costs together so that we can start to bring on funding. We do have the garden that we're working on that was funded by the NRCS, but that was for the Kootenai Tribal Conservation District. Since I sit on the board and one of the moms in our dance group sits on the council for Kootenai, we do stay privy to activities for that. Anangookwe came out with some youth to help us do some field culture. That's where we would stack up logs and branches and other debris together with some other items like horse manure and fungus and other additives to help break down the organic material in the logs and in the branches and turn that into soil. So our activities are self-funded, but we're starting to leverage our position so that we can be in funded areas. The more and more we have more consistent parents and adults show up, because for this past decade, over a decade, it's been sporadic. Me and a mom and a grandma two grandmas were the main staples for supervision for like the first 4 years. And that depended on, there was another mom too. It depended on whether or not how people were getting along, because we have multiple villages, multiple entities, multiple stakeholder groups that would come in. And our organization took a long time to really solidify, but the funding has also really been, it's the opportunities are starting to be here, are here now. We're starting to have the chance to actually go after it. So I'm sorry for the rambling, but
thank you. Cool. So it looks like Colleen was wanting to know if you guys any of you could speak to child labor laws in terms of what minors are able and not able to do in the garden. I did find something online, but I don't know if any of you have like firsthand experience with that, or really anyone on the call.
I think kids can go like 4 to 6 hours normally, and still, I mean, especially if you're in a school program. But Courtney, you know a lot more. I was gonna try to say that part maybe.
Yeah, all of ours is in the summer, so we don't have to worry about school times and all that. But it's like certain objects that they can and can't use if they're 14 and 15 versus 16 and 17. Like a 16-year-old can use a fillet knife, but a 14-year-old can't. There's a lot of very specific things that you have to put on your work permits. So we went back and forth a lot with the Department of Labor to make sure that we had all the tools and who could and couldn't use what. There's not just a generic list posted online either, which I think would be really helpful. And I've asked for it, but they kind of just have an unofficial Excel document, I guess they reference. But it's kind of specific to who's approving, as far as I know.
So what kind of approval did you have to get? Was that because of your grant, or is that just general?
Yeah, just with the work permits, we had to put the tools they're using. So anyone can use a shovel, for example, but any like electronic power tools only 16 can use, and they can't drill holes, but they can put a screw in a pre-drilled hole. There's very specific nuances to that. So it would be my recommendation if anyone is new to a youth garden program to definitely work with the labor people to get your work permits all straight away.
So, and when you say labor people, do you mean like the State Department of Labor? Is it easy to work with them?
Yeah, there's a work permit specific email, and they'll go back and forth with you and say, well, they 16-year-olds can operate this, but the 14 and 15-year-olds can't. So we actually have to have a separate work permit for 14, 15, and 16 and 17 for each village. So yeah, if they're at different physical locations, they need a different work permit as well.
Thank you for clarifying that. I heard the other day that there were issues with like kids moving dirt, like with shovels, and if they were able to help build beds. So that clarified a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and with building beds, so they can't drill holes, but timber locks, they with a impact gun is the way we kind of got around that, because the impact guns won't twist their arms like a drill will, because they'll stop, and the timber locks go through pretty easily. So
do you know about like cutting, like scissors or anything that they would use to then harvest the veggies and stuff once they've grown?
Helen, my understanding is that youth are allowed to use things like clippers and harvest knives, but not like larger like saws, and definitely not anything electric. So in terms of bed prep, shoveling, if you're building, like mounded rows, is fine, but nothing of heavy equipment. So if you're using a tiller or a push behind tractor, those things are not allowed for anyone under 18.
Well, thanks for jumping in. Yeah, I mean, if anyone else has any specific questions, please feel free. Oh, someone just asked, what has been the best motivator to get youth involved and biggest struggle to keep them involved / motivated?
I can quickly talk on this. So obviously the biggest motivator is that our youth generally get paid or they get school credit. But I will talk about the struggle. So we actually have this system. It's called a torch that we have on Google Drive. And so like every 15 minutes, we're not trying to be like super strict and vigilant, but it's just a way to like track to make sure that all of our apprentices are staying on task and not getting too distracted. It's that, and it's also like our greenhouse growers or our skill devs are like making rounds, and like as they're doing that, they're also checking in to see if our apprentices are like needing any help at like the transplanting station, and then also providing feedback. So I know part of the struggle of keeping the motivation going is sometimes our apprentices get stuck and are like a little too shy to ask for help. And so that's why we do have that little accountability feature, which is the torch. And so, yeah. And if they are like slacking on their phone for more than 15 minutes, we usually just be like, hey, could you put your phone away? We notice that that you're kind of like a little distracted right now. And then just usually start working with them for a bit to like get the motivation going. And so, yeah, it's a struggle. And then sometimes our apprentices do no call, no shows, or don't communicate with us lateness. And so we have like this whole Slack channel just for them to communicate with us. We reach out, try to coordinate better times for them to come in if it's like a consistent thing. And if things come to worse, we usually just do like a workplace improvement plan. So if it's phone's a constant struggle, we come up with a plan on how to keep them more involved and away from the cell phone or attendance. So that's the cool little thing, the little torch.
I'm curious, what is this torch thing? I'm curious.
Yeah, so the torch, it's a Google Excel sheet or a spreadsheet. I always get those mixed up. And so it's in 15-minute intervals. So you just go in and it's like, let's say it's like 10:15. An apprentice is working on working at the transplanting section. We put that down as like hydro systems production. And so that's just a way to like track how long apprentices are working on a task. And this is, yeah, once again, it's for accountability. And then it's also for grant purposes. So we have an NRCS grant, Seeds Outside. And so we have it under Seeds Outside grants if an apprentice is helping us on one of those tasks. So it's grant purposes, it's accountability, but it's like every 15 minutes we do a round.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like you know, I mean, you're working with at-risk youth. And so it sounds like you have a whole slew of support systems in place. Is that correct?
Yeah, we definitely, that's why there's 5 leads and we have our youth staff to help keep our apprentices on track. And we also offer them things like personal development time. So we offer that, it's like, hey, I know you might have something important that you need to take care of. Could it wait for personal development so you can have a computer and work on that? So like, I know some are applying for jobs and they're like checking their cell phones to like see if they got a call back. It's like, we have a designated time. You can do that then.
Yeah. Courtney, how about your program? How do you do that?
With like cell phones and controlling.
Yeah, just, I mean, how, like, you know, if you're working with kids, how do you keep them on track working? And I mean, it's also about, you know, providing these life skills, you know.
Yeah, we have a check-in every morning to go over like the goals for the day and with the youth and with the supervisors. So in general, after that, the supervisors kind of take lead to make sure those tasks are getting done or addressed. And we generally have a no cell phone rule in the area, especially because there's construction equipment and just different hazards in the area that would not be good if they're just walking on their phone and end up walking into a construction equipment or something. And we do, you know, the 15-minute breaks, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, that's mandated. And then they have lunchtime where they can socialize. And I mean, they generally socialize during work also, but we don't prevent them from doing that, but just time on their phones for their social media or outside communication. And if someone gets an important phone call, they can take that, but
There was a time when we weren't always just me and the auntie and a couple others. There was a time where when we first started, my village nonprofit had 2 ladies employed that also had kids in our dance group. So they were a part of the start of the group. And so I had 3 aunties, very, very, very strict women there, and those kids didn't stand a chance. Like they were just stuck learning the whole time. I mean, I could focus on teaching them. It was awesome. Now kids are actually a lot older now, so I have a lot more young adult kids now. The majority of my group is 17, 18, and 19 and 20. So it's been an interesting thing to see the motivation change. From when they're kids, they're being dragged there. So I mean, they would act up, and then ain't to go in there, and and or make them sit on the walls, hold up the wall. Um, but when they got older, I always thought we would age out and we'd just stop being a dance group. Um, but during the COVID time, things revamped so quickly all of a sudden. It was just before the shutdown. More people started to come to some winter events, but then the summertime came. All of a sudden, we had a huge upswing in a lot younger kids, and then the older kids started coming in more. Um, we would start to do things more for gardening. Um, because I mean we're focused on culture, which includes feeding our people, which now we have tools of agriculture to help us out with. So when I talk about some of our history, just disclaimer, a lot of it is during our cultural activities, and not always just which aren't always just agriculture, but um we started doing more stuff in agriculture. Um and one of the things was to go help the Kanik tribe harvest their potatoes, and I brought, I don't know, like 4 kids with me out there, and we had a great time. At first we were going out there, and one of the kids was like, "How much am I getting paid for this?" And I told him nothing, and then he looked all shocked and mad. But then I said, "Neither am I. We're doing this for our community. This food is for people that need it. The elders, the single moms, the kids, because I think a part of it was their, all right, at the time I thought it was part of their school program. I'm not too sure. I don't think it is though. But when I said that, the kid's attitude changed just kind of like that. And he was smiling all day. Um, and then all the other kids, when they want to go and do stuff in agriculture, the big thing for them is socialization. It's they get to be around people their age, and around us adults. So it's a lot of it, I think, is because I'm not paying my kids yet. Um, we're getting there. I did try once, but without I need to get the moms paid first. Huh? You pay us with food. Yeah, one of my nephews live with me. He says we pay him with food. Um, we're getting towards where we can start to have tasks defined and start to get in a place where we can go after funding. But right now we're just kind of working at it from that angle, just trying to keep the kids motivated through the social side of it, the cultural side of it, which really builds up our spiritual side. It really helps the kids start to get in shape, get mentally and physically healthy. And a lot has to do with that socialization and just that importance of what they're doing.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. Eric asked if the youth are involved in distribution of harvests and how does that work? I'm not sure. I think he might have posted that when Anangookwe was talking. I'm not sure if it's directed at anyone specifically, but
so with the distribution of harvest, so our youth are involved with the harvesting and packaging process. A lot of our produce is actually distributed through partners like Arctic Harvest Deliveries that has CSA shares. We occasionally, we're getting into the habit of doing monthly farmers markets. So Arctic Harvest Deliveries just finished up their winter markets that we've been staffing every Saturday, like one Saturday a month. But that's once again on a Saturday, so our youth really are not involved in our markets too much at the moment. We do want them to get some of that training or experience eventually, so we are planning to sell at a couple weekday markets this summertime. So if they want to get some like cash handling experience, that'll be the time.
For us, this will be like the first really big harvest year. So we're trying to plan that right now. I think we're going to try and do some kind of box type program where people can sign up on Facebook or something and get distributions. And last year we did some little farmers market type just in town. It kind of worked, and we did some taste tests for things like squash or newer vegetables to try and get people to buy them who haven't experienced them before. So yeah, it's something we're working on.
Yeah, I know kids can be like a good point of pride to be able to actually like be involved in like giving food to elders. Seems pretty important.
Yeah, and we had them do greenhouse tours too. So we did this like every Monday once harvesting started. We had a group of kids in the back from like 1 to 3 or something, and had them do tours of the greenhouses because the whole community is interested in seeing what's going on. And we had chickens, so that's an exciting thing for them too. And then at the end we had all the harvested produce and had people filling out invoices to have them pay, and so it was really cool.
Cool.
I was going to ask you that, Courtney, is it set up as a business, or is it more just generally given?
We have a fisherman's store through our subsidiary, the fishery. The Quick Pack Fisheries has a fisherman's store. So we were selling the vegetables to the store so they can sell, because they have the storefront all set up and they are actually able to accept like EBT, and we wanted to be able to have that as an option as well, because I know we'd have to do a separate filing, but as we're expanding, we're going to have to set up kind of our own.
That actually reminds me, there is a special grant program for that. Iva, would you be able to find the link that Tikan shared with us this morning about the grants available for purchasing local food?
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of segues into, since we only have like 5 minutes left, just wanted to like dump some resources. And so yeah, if anyone knows of any funding resources or even just like information resources, just feel free to unmute and say that, or just put it in the chat and we will compile something, and I'll put some in the chat too.
Yeah,
But,
I just found it, this one
okay,
here.
cool. Yeah, there's that one, and Intertribal Agriculture Council also has a youth internship program that where Native youth can get an internship. It's part-time, just in the summer. I think the age is like 16 to 24, and they can be placed with their tribe or with a Native organization in the area, and then do basically like a passion project around agriculture. And the application for that is due in May 1st, so just in a week. I'll find the link too. And also you can like pair it with other funding too, if they're also getting paid with something else too.
And that's something I've been trying to work on too. We've been doing this so long, but we haven't been able to get up to that next level of activities without getting some level of funding. And when I've been looking at it, it seems like a lot of funding opportunities are somewhere between three to about 3 to 15,000 for a lot of funders for some beginning funding for. I think you can do some for staffing, but it's more for materials. And then looking at other areas for, it seems like a lot of private foundations, they like to do 2-year funding cycles for new projects if you're talking to a real serious funder. Or they'll do smaller grants for 1 year. Usually it's like for if you can get a good foundation, about 200,000 for 2 years. And that can do staffing and admin and rent and materials for projects. And then there's been some smaller foundations, foundational funding for like 25,000, below 100,000. But it's limited on what you can do. Most private foundations, it seems like it's a lot better though. But so what I'm saying is, I wouldn't be scared of going after private foundation. There's a lot out there, and they're looking for youth in agriculture, but they're listing it as different ways. They'll say youth in their listings, but they're talking about climate resilient farming or community farming or urban farming. Urban farming, if you see anything like that, that type of funding reflects community gardening a lot. So if you do see anything on that, that might be worth looking into.
Yeah, and the one really good private foundation is the Native American Agriculture Fund. But yeah, I mean, the great thing about like if you're looking for funding to pay youth to work in a garden is like it's workforce development, it's youth programming, and it's food security. So you could like look for grants in all of those areas and they're gonna be applicable. Okay, well, we have 1 minute left. If anyone, before we all turn into pumpkins, if anyone has a quick question, otherwise I think we'll just wrap this up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen, Courtney, and Anangookwe, and everyone who participated. Really appreciate it. Bye.